Alright, so drive system is pretty much in order. This is where the supercharger pulley will bolt up. I'm going to leave that off for now. That will go, not sure of the belt path right now, but that's going to use these two idlers as well as this tensioner and the supercharger. And that will be my supercharger setup. And then somehow this crank is going to go to the idler, to the power steering pump, to the alternator, to the water pump, back up to this idler, and somehow back down here. So you have to figure out how all the belts run, but everything kind of fits so far. I had to do some grinding on this bracket. The alternator still kind of has some issues right here. It's rubbing on the valve cover. And in order to mount the bracket for this pulley, I had to remove my mounts for my coolant reservoir for the charger, so I got to figure out how to mount that now. Yeah, not bad. Okay, so I think I kind of got figured out what I want to do here about mounting this guy. I took this bracket off, took all this pulley crap off, just sort of snowballed, but tapped a hole right down there with M6 and to make a little triangle bracket that goes to both of these holes right here and just bolts it on up. Give you a quick insight on how I do my fab work here. Here's my crappy bracket I just cut up. I'll cut that. Oops, I'm gonna need that later. I cut that on this guy, which these are about, I think, like 100 or 200 bucks, just a metal shear, and as you can see, cuts aluminum like butter, so it's pretty easy to do stuff like that. And then I have this hole punch here to punch my stuff. Okay, bam, there's your hole. This guy needs a little bit of bend to it, so bracket, small curve to it because the surfaces are kind of offset. See if I can sand this without burning the crap out of my hands here. All right. For the official test. Not bad. Okay, currently 2:30 in the morning. So I got this guy all figured out last time we talked. Got my crank pulley on there. It's looking good. Everything's looking good under here. I spent some time trying to figure out what I'm going to do about the power steering reservoir. That has to come out here, so I got to figure that out. I figured out the routing for my crank sensor wiring. I'm just going to come up, sort of snake up through there. Our major issue, which was the alternator hitting the valve cover right here, I got kind of figured out. I robbed some aluminum from this old tensioner bracket, cut off the old two brackets there, so this back one is threaded, this one is, front one is not, so I'm gonna have put some weld down there and in there, and we should have an alternator bracket after that that'll work. I'm going to wait on doing that until I mount my valve covers, because the valve cover clearance, as you can see, is pretty close. And I just measured these valve covers at 55 millimeters tall, and I measured the new valve covers at 65 millimeters tall. So I kind of want to get the valve covers mounted before I go ahead and finish off this bracket here. I might have to space that out just a slight bit further. Okay, quick check-in here, doing a test fit on the new valve covers, and trying to figure out these brackets here for my spark plug wires. Took off the alternator bracket and the power steering bracket. That's next door. That should be, I should have those tabs TIG welded on by tomorrow. Yeah, just figuring stuff out. Okay, been busy. Got the crank pulley on. That's looking nice and pretty. Very tight clearance on the water pump and everything. It's going to be really hard to get the belts on and off this thing. What else was I doing? Oh, dealing with the power steering pump. Kind of figuring that out. I think I already showed you guys that. They just put on all the front suspension, got the SLR kit on there. Once again, I had to notch this out just a little bit because I didn't anticipate where this was going to sit with the caster that the car has. So got all that on there. Did a quick full lock test. So this is full lock on this side, as you can see. Tie rod has nice clearance. Rod end isn't, maxing out. The rod end for the control arm isn't maxing out. This is a well-engineered angle kit. I gotta give it to Sean over at SLR. This is nice stuff, man. Like I couldn't ask for anything better. It feels just like the car did from the factory, just more angle. Okay, where do we leave off? Got all this front suspension on there on this side, looking nice and pretty. Got everything zip tied back, mounted these guys. Those are the shock reservoirs. Yeah, just did some zip tying. Pretty much just got the wheel wells kind of sorted. It's something I kind of stress over because I don't want the shock reservoir or the brake line getting cut if it gets caught in between a control arm or it catches a tire or something. So got that done. Oh yeah, I put my dipstick in. Went to a solid dipstick this year because the last one was leaking like crazy, but yeah, you gotta get a dipstick now. I use my little gangster JDM spring to keep that thing from popping out if you over rev. Had that thing pop out a couple times and just put the little spring on it. Never had a problem. So, yeah, I'm gonna get out of here. It's 2:30 in the morning, so it's time to go home. Go home, make a grilled cheese, and go to bed. Call Magnuson tomorrow. See about them making me a pulley and a snout. They thought I was going to be running Camaro drive, so this pulley is slightly off. It actually needs to move in, like very slightly, but it's enough to throw the belt off. So, oh, and I also need to get that new pulley, or actually the new snout is going to move it in, and then the pulleys for that snout, I'm going to be going down to an 80, so it's just slightly more boost. And I need that in an 8 rib and not a 6 rib. This is a 6 rib. All our supercharger stuff is going to be 8 rib. So need that in an 8 rib, need that in an 80 millimeter for the other snout, and I need the other snout. I'm going to get an ETA on all that stuff tomorrow, as well as an ETA on the top cover that we desperately need to run all our wiring and all that stuff. Yeah, alternator bracket should be here tomorrow, so I can bolt up that. Hopefully I can figure out all this shim stuff on the power steering pump. Bolt up the power steering pump, run some belts, be fine with that. Getting the fittings welded on for the new valve covers for the breather system, so those will be done tomorrow. I can finally put the valve covers on permanently. So once I get the valve covers on, get that top cover, get the fuel rails in place, get this alternator on, get that power steering pump figured out, run all the belts, we should be good. Other than this giant pulley down here might hit the supercharger radiator. I'm not quite sure yet. I got a cross beam to bolt in there and mount that up. Maybe I'll do a test fit on that tomorrow or something to see if that guy might need to move a little bit. Yeah, we're looking good though. Getting there. Getting there. Hopefully none of my water temperature sensor bungs impede the belt. That would suck. Yeah. All our suspension in place, steering racks in place. Once that pump is up, I can hook up the power steering lines with that inline gauge. We can test the pressure. Doesn't seem like much, but it's a whole lot, because every step you take, you got to do something to make it work properly, and it's not easy. Not easy at all, boys and girls. Okay, so back at it again today. Got our rear suspension on. Diff is in there. The tap for the clevises came in today, so tapped them, mounted them, should be good to go. Everything seems okay back here. Need to get my drive shaft done so I can complete the drivetrain. What you assholes doing?
Hey,
get out of my shop.
Hey, I'm with you.
Got the alternator bracket sorted. Got those two little pieces welded on there. I'm gonna run a sleeve right here just to give that bracket a little bit more rigidity. Still waiting on the power steering pump. I'm gonna take that to Gary tomorrow, get it sorted. Or Omid's gonna take it to Gary. He's got it right there. Everything else is pretty much sorted. Still waiting on the pulley for Magnuson. Still waiting on the top cover for Magnuson. I was trying to figure out intake today. I can use the existing setup if I run a shorter cone filter, and if that cone filter doesn't have as big of a lip as this one does. Most likely I'm gonna have to turn this direction so it comes away from the accessories, and then I can run like a 7-inch cone filter instead of the 9-inch. That's probably the easiest way to get around it. Yeah, other than that, I think that's all we did today. We painted all our spark plug wire brackets, so those are going to be nice and black and pretty when we put the valve covers on. Still waiting on the fittings for the valve covers. Those are next door getting welded up. We'll have those tomorrow. I can put the valve covers on tomorrow and start running my breather lines, figuring stuff out. But realistically, we need that top cover pretty bad to keep going here. Still can't run the wiring harness, can't run the throttle cable, can't run my alternator wiring. All sorts of stuff is holding us back just because the top cover and the fuel rails are not in place. But the good news is we got all the rear suspension done, front suspension's done. Underneath, car's pretty much ready. Okay, quick check-in here. Been real busy. Got my power steering reservoir kind of figured out. It's just gonna have to be kind of sideways like that, so the fill line will be right about there. It's not a big deal. It's kind of the only way to get the hose to orientate itself properly. Can't really see there, but there's a hose that goes right through here, and to get it in there without any kinks, that was really the only option that we had as far as reservoir mounting to clear the hood. Intake tube is next door, getting a new piece welded onto it. AEM came by, Chris at AEM came by, brought us some filters, so we're going to be running a shorter filter this year so we have more clearance. So yeah, we're trying to figure that out. Probably gonna have to relocate the charge cooler a little bit. Other than that, looking good. I had to relocate my temperature bung or my temperature sensor on the thermostat housing. Plugged up that hole with an MPT port because the belt is going to be going right through here. Valve covers should be going on today. Got my throttle cable bracket figured out. Yeah, a lot of small things. So yeah, check back in when I get the intake figured out, and when I get my power steering lines figured out. All I need is a piece of 3/8 line to connect this to the reservoir right there. So yeah, still waiting on that cover from Magnuson. I finally got word it's going to be done on Tuesday supposedly, so hopefully that gets done on time and we can get out to the track finally with this thing. See y'all later.
Born to be alive, born to be alive. You see, we're born, born to be alive. People ask me why I never find a place to stop and settle down. But I never
Okay, lot going on over here. Have not been making any videos because I am freaking busy. Had to do a bunch of service stuff on the trailer, so the car kind of sat for a day there, 2 days actually, and we finally got our top cover in from Magnuson. So that's on there. It's looking pretty. Unfortunately, can't quite do the harness yet. Our old injector clips were kind of worn out, so they're not really snapping on there very well. I tried respringing them and stuff, and it's just not happening, so I got some new ones coming on Friday. All the hoses are hooked up. I just finished my breather setup, so it's coming from valve cover 1 over to this T. Valve cover 2 comes into the T as well and goes into the catch can over here. Really, I believe, yeah, I think these 2 fittings are the last ones to hook up. Just need to put in my 90 right there, as well as hook up the fuel return. Those are kind of going to get in the way of doing the injector clips, so I'm not doing those yet. Same thing with the spark plugs. I'm just waiting on the injector clips to get that done first, as well as running these 2 temp sensors, one for oil and one for water. Got our belts kind of figured out. The supercharger belt fits pretty good. It's a little snug, so I think I'm going to go 1 step down, and then the accessory belt almost fit, but due to us, relocating the alternator here that little bit further out, it just wasn't happening. So going to get probably 2 steps longer on that one, and then just got to run the throttle cable. Already got our bracket made up for that, which is this guy right here, sitting nice and in line. It's hard to see because it's black, but that's the center of it right there, and it's sitting pretty good with the throttle body here, so pretty stoked on that. Alright, we got 1% battery, so I'm going to make this quick. Mechanically, everything's ready. Need to cut some zip ties, I need to put the fluids in, and we are ready to go. So I'm about to fill it with power steering fluid, oil, water, all that good stuff, and we should be ready to start it probably tomorrow or the next day. All right. Ellie, all right on those fittings, man.
Yeah.
I'd say that's a start.
Yeah.
Thing's loud as fuck.
That thing is
Holy shit, that is loud. Way louder than the last engine.
Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah, ready?
No fucking way. Whoops.
Well, you were
So,
at like...
there was so much vibration right there for that second that it knocked the bumper off the top of the Z and maybe scratched my hood up a little bit. Whoops. I don't know if I've had time to post anything before I leave, but we had some issues on the dyno. We had some issues on the dyno, and it turns out it's probably the water pump. We thought it was a head gasket at first, so basically the engine is getting way too hot and it's not flowing to the rear system. Engine was getting up to 220, 230, and the radiator was still cold to the touch, so I'm going to replace the water pump. Hopefully that cures all our problems, and we can move on. Right now, ETA, 10 days till I believe. I was hoping the dyno session would go good on Tuesday. It's now Thursday. I spent the day yesterday at CPR Racing Engines trying to figure this all out. We did a leak down test and figured out it wasn't the head gasket, and tried to bleed the car properly. That didn't work, and then we just kept on overheating it and trying to figure out what the hell was going on. So right now we're at a 90% chance that it's the water pump, good 10% chance that we just have blockage in the coolant system somewhere. So I'm going to start tearing the front end apart again, replace this water pump, and and move on. So let's do it.
You see, before, you see, born to be alive, born to be alive. You see, born to be alive.
Alright, so where we leave off last time, I think I had the water pump off and I was waiting to get the new one in the morning. Apologize for not filming all this stuff, but it's kind of been crazy around here. So got the new water pump on, car held temperature good. It was idling around 175-ish, 180-ish, sort of going back and forth. So pretty sure the water pump was our issue. So now we're just waiting to get dyno time again. Unfortunately, my tuner had a family emergency, so we won't be able to get on the dyno until tomorrow, which is Monday at the earliest. I'm still not sure if I'm gonna be able to get there or not. So I may have to find another tuner here. So tomorrow should know a little better about that. Had a power steering fluid leak, so I replaced the rack, and we've been trying to figure out how to shim the pump properly to get the correct power steering pressure. I already removed the pump once, took out a couple shims, and we didn't really see a change in pressure, so I'm probably going to remove the pump again tonight, take out the larger shim, and just see what pressure we get then. So that's about where we are right now. Really happy the car's holding temperature. So not much left to do on the list, which means I get a chance to edit some videos here. So yeah, next one should be, hopefully I have time to upload some footage from the dyno and all that stuff in our first test session. And next one should be FD Atlanta after that. So yeah, wish me luck, and I will see you guys next time.